All right, we're kicking off UAT release 2. We're going to be covering cycle 1 and cycle 2. Before I jump into it, as a reminder for folks on what is UAT, what's the purpose of UAT, how do I do UAT, I want to go through the overview of one of our guides. Each of our guides walk through the expectations and let you know what you should be looking at. So this information is readily available in the guides. So UAT is user acceptance testing. This is where we are able to take the concepts we have developed through conversation and get them in front of you in our real life tools. You can get in, get your hands on them, make sure they're working as expected and everything looks good to you. We do note that this is not a fully secured environment. So we want to make sure you're not putting any personal identifiable information in the system yet. We're still like hooking up Okta and logins and all that. So don't be uploading or putting in, PII. Just use test data as you're testing the system in UAT. And you're looking to make sure you catch any issues and make sure this is aligning with the processes and practice we want to see in place in IWDS 2.0. So we're going to be looking at two areas today, MSG UI. We know that after we get the application and the services hooked up, we're going to overlay another layer of business logic on top of MSGs. But we can't really do that until we have some triggering features in the system. So right now we're looking more at the UI of the MSGs. We're also going to be looking at updates that were made to the customer and application listing. We made updates to the way we search names on those listings. And we're also going to be looking at the create customer record, the duplicate customer search that happens before you create the record. We made extensive updates to both of these areas based on release 1 of UAT. So they were extensive enough that we want to get them back in front of you all. We asked that we had a due date of MSGs for the 20th because we did that on the 13th with the locals. But because we're doing both for the state, we have a due date of we had the 26th. Since we're not doing UAT on the 26th, I will give us till the 2nd, and that will give me time to make sure folks who aren't on these calls have the necessary information they need to be able to do UAT in these two areas. There's a few folks I'd like to touch base with that usually regularly attend these calls that I want to make sure are aware of UAT. All right, so how do you engage with UAT? We have our UAT site, so it's linked right here. You will go in and be able to use the tools. We also have our UAT notebook. So this is where you can come in and you can report issues, bugs, or enhancements you would like to see with the system. So we have our release 2 cycle 1. We have some different pages where you can upload information, whether it's adding or looking at the display table. When you're looking at release 2, this one we haven't kicked off with the locals. We're not seeing anything in here yet. But we will start seeing stuff coming tomorrow. We have customer and application listing and then the duplicate customer search. All of your findings can go in here. We ask that whenever you're logging your items that you are thorough. We want you to be consistent and detailed in the way you log information, include screenshots and steps to how you got there.
No, we don't.
Hey, Christy, you're not muted. Sorry. We want to make sure that we can easily trace the steps you took to get to whatever issue you found or whatever enhancement you would like to see so that we can understand to create the necessary cards and work with the developers to address those issues or bugs. If you have any issues accessing any of the resources, you can always contact myself or one of the other BAs. The expectations for UAT are that you test thoroughly, that you're detail-oriented, and as you're providing information back to us through the notebook, it's going to fall into 1 of 3 categories. We don't expect you to know these categories. we will determine those as we're going through the information. It's either a bug, it doesn't perform as expected. An issue, maybe it performs as expected, the way we defined it, but it is not going to work like in practice. There's um, a situation or a scenario where it's just not going to work the way we need it to work in the field. So we're going to need to tweak that a little bit to make it work in practice. And then enhancement. So it is, working as expected. It'll work in the field, but it could be better, or more intuitive or more streamlined if we did this. So those are the three categories that something that's found could potentially fall in. And then just a best practice for effective UAT, we want to think like an end user when we're going through this and go through it the way our end users would. We want to be specific and thorough when we're going through UAT, but also when we're providing our feedback, and then provide context for your feedback, so that we kind of understand the reasoning behind why it wouldn't work, which can help us come up with a good solution or drive the conversation with the appropriate SMEs into why this, even though we defined it one way, isn't going to work in the field. Any questions with that? Okay. And I do want to reiterate, UAT is where you guys get to get your hands on and give sign off that yes, this is going to work. If we don't get any feedback to the contrary, we are going to assume that this is being signed off on as yes, we've touched it, we've got our hands on it, and this is how we want it to work. So it's really, really critical that you're in there and you're looking at it, in addition to the locals, because we want to make sure the state is happy with what has been developed as well. And so the next part of each of the guide, both of the guides have the overview part, and then you will get down into the section that is specific to the tool. So this is what is going to kind of guide you through the actual site so that you know that you're in the right area. So we want to make sure that we are seeing the same screens that we're seeing in the guide. It's going to walk you through like the different areas. This right here is letting you know how to access the MSG section. And then how to add the MSG is just a high level overview of how you engage with the tool. This is not a step-by-step guide, and it's not meant to be a step-by-step guide because we want it to be more open. We want the system to be intuitive enough that every time you engage with the system, you don't necessarily need a step-by-step guide to figure out how it's used. We will have those, especially for training and getting people familiar with the system. But these guides are more aimed at giving you context of what you're supposed to be looking at and what its general purpose is supposed to be, and then letting you guys get in there and get your hands on it and engage with it and make sure it's meeting the policy and processes that need to be taking place in the system to support the end users in the field. So that's what the rest of this document is. I'm not going to go through all this in detail, but it is here. You don't necessarily need to worry about the next week stuff. That's more for the locals. And as I mentioned, we're kind of squeezing your guys's together in 2 weeks. Any questions with that before I want to jump in and walk through all these screens with you. So you guys are confident with it as you jump into it and play with it yourself. All right. So the first thing we'll look at here, since we're already on the page, is our customer and application listing. So the customer and application listing already went through UAT where we had them test all of the filters. We had them and you guys test all of the filter section, the table, the hamburger, the export. We went through all that. And there were our main feedback was around our name search. We had a quick search. And we went back and forth on like, well, folks liked our duplicate search because it had a full name search and you could break it down by first name, middle initial, last name. But other people really liked, well, I like a quick search. I might just want to search like part of a name or a first name. I don't necessarily want to have to break it down all the way. And after some conversation and looking at Career Connect and best practices, Career Connect supported dual searches. I believe it wasn't super intuitive and you kind of had to know what you were doing to get to the different ones. But we liked that idea of being able to provide both. So we have a quick search where you can come in and you can quickly search on, whatever you want, first name, last name, doesn't matter. You're just doing a quick search. Or you could opt to do a full name search where you're searching by a fuller name, first name, last name. Let's try. You can search that as well to get your more targeted search in. So that is a new feature that we included that we didn't have before. We've broken that out to have it a little more flexible. Go ahead, Christy.
Hi, I just want to let you, I don't know for sure if you know exactly how the Career Connect one works, but they have a unique identifier. So you could type the unique identifier. You could start by you could type the unique identifier. You could type the full social security number if you needed it or had it. You could also type, it starts by last name and then first name. I don't think we can just do by first name. So you would have to start by the
You're
last
right.
name.
I
But
ran into
those are
that when
the,
searching like George Costanza. I have to start with Costanza.
yes. Yeah. So those are the three. It's the state ID or the unique identifier, the full social, and then the last name, comma, first name. The quick search is we got used to the quick search. So
Mm.
I'm glad you put it there. It's very helpful.
And right now, ours is a quick search on name. We have the last four of the SSN. Before we expand anything for a full SSN search, there are some do it things we need to look at. We don't typically provide full SSN
Yeah,
searches.
and you know what? I don't even know if people know that you could do it. I've just
Yeah,
tried to do it and it worked. So it's
Yeah.
not like we're telling people it work that to do that.
right.
We're telling them to use the name and the unique identifier.
And we have a unique identify search here, but if we need to expand the quick search to also be able to search on that unique identifier, that's always an enhancement we can make down the road. But it is something we know Chicago uses a lot, and we'll continue to support a way to do that.
Thank you so much.
Okay. It was a very split from the locals on the search, and we had a lot of strong opinions in both directions, is why we um, ended up going this route, is just give them
Yeah,
the
well, Career
option.
Connect has multiple ways. Yeah,
Mhm.
we can do it either way, whatever you prefer.
And this search applies to applications too. So
You mean the quick search does?
yeah, the quick search or full search, you can
Okay.
use it. But when I search in one place, I'm searching both tables, so I don't have
Oh,
to
that's
repeat my
awesome.
search.
Oh, that's great. I like that.
So it doesn't seem like a major change, but this was a really strong thing that the locals wanted, so we wanted to bring that up. And
Wait.
then
So wait,
go
I'm
ahead.
sorry. The strong opinion was to have quick and full search.
Yeah.
Okay. I like it. I just was clarified in my mind what it was.
Yeah, it did a couple things. It allowed us to tie the dedupe search a little closer to the records that come back here, provide multiple ways to search. There were a few things that went to it, but essentially this is what came out of that, all the feedback we got from release 1 UAT.
My guess is that once they figure out how to use the quick search, people will use that more often than the full search. They just
Yeah.
haven't used it yet. So
Yep. The next thing, which I'm excited to show, is we updated the duplicate customer search. So, sorry, jump back. You go to add a customer. The first thing we want you to do is check to make sure they're not already in the system because we don't want a bunch of duplicate customers getting added in. So we run a test. We have updated this so it now bounces off of a nickname database. So if I type in Robert, it's passing this first name through a nickname database. And if it hits potential nicknames, it is pulling those back as well. There's no great way to like really show you that on the front end other than you guys can test it and see that it's hitting nicknames. But I can show you, like, here's our nickname database. It's very extensive that we put in, that we have included in our search parameters that it's hitting.
Oh, that's
So
cool.
when I search, this name, it's pulling me back anybody who also has a first name with this and one of these two matches. So two have to match. And if it's a nickname plus like a last name match or a date of birth match, I'm getting that back too. And so that has been hooked in there. And then the other thing we did was, so when I search, okay, now I see all these people. Olivia Test must have did she get married and her name changed? Like what happened? I have a preview icon now and I can preview this customer record to see like, okay, is this the
That,
Olivia I want? Maybe it's this one. What's your email? And so I'm sorry, losing my words. I can better view what's going on with this customer without leaving my search and then be like, okay, it's none of these. I need to add a new one, or, oh, it's this Olivia, and I can go straight to the record.
that's very cool.
So this was our shopping cart kind of like view
Oh,
that
where's
we wanted to
Mark?
get.
Where's Mark? He'll love that shopping cart.
Good. Yeah, so this was a big thing that came out because we had it in a modal and not a great way to really preview. It was more of a table. So, as we build out the customer profile, if we want to tweak this preview a little bit, we can. But it's allowing me to manipulate my search and stay here. I don't have to move back and forth. I can do a lot on one page now.
I actually like this preview side better than the modals, the pop-up modals on stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I know you can't use it for you have to use the modal for some things, but I would think wherever we could use something like this instead of a modal, we should.
Okay. Yeah, and then I love how you can preview it, and then if you want to go all the way there and have it full
Yeah.
page, you click go to record, and now here's the whole record.
Yep, I do too.
So,
it's very user friendly.
so that is our UAT cycle 2 items. You guys can get in there and play around with those, make sure things look good when you actually get your hands on it. And then the other item, which I'm excited to have Paula and Ray on, I was hoping maybe Mark would jump on. Do you guys know, is he off or in a meeting?
Not sure. He's not off. Let me see. It looks like he has meetings all day today.
Okay. He's one of the ones I want to connect with. I really need
Yeah.
him to get his hands on this. There's just a few others, so I'll connect with him. I sent him an email with everything, so I'll circle back with him. So right now we have it living in our management tool. We have a testing page. This will eventually be moved. So like when I'm in a customer profile, I just want to give you a little idea of where it's going to live. Come here, Haley. Oh, I don't know that I have this in UAT yet. So eventually we're going to have like an outcomes page. We're still working all of this stuff out. And eventually a customer will have an outcomes page where their MSG section will live. We are not there yet, but we have a testing page that allows us to build these like features that we know are going to be embedded through one or more areas of the tool. So we don't have to have everything built before we start building some of this. This is where our testing page comes in. So if you go to Manage Tools Testing and then Testing page, which I have in the guide, you'll scroll down to the MSG section. So we start the MSG section with some overview text. And then I have a note right here. As we get further into development and I have an application and can identify programs that customers are being certified for, I can make this text dynamic so we know that it will be different when I have the ability to do that. Like, know if you're an adult or out of school youth or in school youth, I can show you different text, especially for in school youth who trigger MSGs a lot differently than everybody else. And then right here, this is just saying, right, an MSG has to be tied to a customer, right? So because this is on the testing page, it's not tied to a customer record or an application. So we're just tying everything right now to this test customer. And it's more of a note for us to know where this is all getting tied to. So you don't need to worry about that. And then we have our MSG table. So because everything is going into one MSG place, there are a lot. We have our locals in here. Our locals have been testing this and providing feedback on this. But essentially we have a table. We have the ability to add MSGs, and when you add them, they then display on this table. We are currently, it is being filtered alphabetically. We know that we want to move that to like the most recently added kind of order. We have filters, so you can filter to see specific types of MSGs and filter to see specific program years. So if you want to, manipulate this table at all, you do have the ability to do that with the filters. You can also sort your table different ways. And then you can download the documentation associated with an MSG, and you can delete an MSG, which we know we may need to put some user role restriction around. So like only Title I administrators could actually delete an MSG,
But-
and not just anyone.
I don't think I understand the purpose of this.
So this is to add our measurable skill gains,
And who would be adding a measurable skill gain?
a career planner.
For what purpose? And why would they add it here and not attach to the customer record?
They would, we just don't have the customer record built out.
So, but
So
what's going to be
this
the
will-
purpose of this when you have the customer record built out?
This is like, what's the word I'm looking for? Do I have Al on? It is a service. Is that what I'm looking for? Lynette?
Yes.
It's a service. So essentially this is built, and once a customer record is built out with an outcomes page, we can just move this service to live on that page. So when I go into, so I'm working with Haley Casper, she earned an MSG. I will go into Haley Casper and go to her outcomes, and it will live right here. It will live on, like, it will be her
Okay.
MSGs.
So but if she completes something, isn't the system going to be intuitive enough on the back end to know what MSG it meets? I mean, I guess I don't understand why we're not creating the system so it's intuitive to know it rather than adding it.
It will. There
Well,
is
that's
some,
not what we're saying right here. We're saying we're adding it.
well,
There's
there is
nothing
some,
intuitive about that.
there is
there-
some things that will automatically calculate, but there's other things that you cannot automatically calculate. So it
Like
does,
what?
it does a little bit of both.
Like
Well,
what?
can you show the whole thing then?
Yeah, so you can add MSGs if we're looking at educational functional level. If it's a pre and post test score, it'll auto calculate. This is just telling you like you have to add the pre and post assessment result, and it'll direct you to the assessments page to add that result. And then it will auto calculate the MSG. You're just adding the assessments, and the MSG is auto calculated. But for entry into post-secondary education information or pass a subtest on a high school equivalency, you have to answer the questions and upload the acceptable documentation to prove that. And
What's
we
the-
know, go ahead.
Wait, it's a component we could plug into other places so we don't have to create standalone features. I don't know what that means. Oh, Lynette's answering Paula, sorry. So, but when we say add a measurable skills gain, they can't just make one up. It has to be from this drop-down list, right?
Yeah, it has to be one of these.
Okay.
And
But aren't there certain services that trigger these?
Training.
mhm,
Yes.
there's certain services that trigger you're now on the hook to earn an MSG.
Okay, and so you're saying that we still have to add, but since there's certain services that trigger you're on the hook, if I add a completion like successful or something, shouldn't that automatically populate it rather than us going in and adding it? I don't
Well,
understand.
no, because it's more than just completion of the service. It's like passed a subtest. So that's just part of the service. So there's other ways to earn them that's being done throughout the entire service. So you don't want to wait until the service is closed successfully to record it.
Okay, and so all that's being built in though.
Yeah, and if there are places where attend secondary school diploma or recognized equivalent, you just add that credential. And if you're within the parameters of that being counted as an MSG because you have the right services to trigger and you earned it in the right program year, we're going to auto add it.
There's like
And
a
if,
lookup for it, right, Olivia?
yeah. And we're
But
going to have a
lookup
button.
isn't automatically add.
Well, we're going to auto add it.
Right.
There's,
Okay.
yeah.
I
Like,
think even like a lookup, like
what do you mean a lookup? Yeah, I guess let me make sure I understand what you're saying, Paula.
a lookup for a message for the career planner to make it so intuitive that it's like, hey, you had someone in secondary school with an end date. Do you need to be adding their high school diploma?
Well,
And then
but
it auto reports it, calculates it, right?
What were you going to say, Lisa?
so if I've created a service that says somebody's getting their secondary diploma or recognized equivalent, once I've enrolled them in that service, that means I'm on the hook for this MSG.
Well, I thought,
No.
look at
I'm
the
asking
service
the question.
matrix.
I don't know. I'm not stating it as a for sure. I'm asking the question.
I'm going to open
You-
the service matrix as you talk.
You're on the
Paula.
hook for a MSG once you're enrolled in a training service, and it differs for youth and 1A, 1D. So that's
Right.
where, okay, so you are included in the measure no matter what. Every program year you have a training,
Right.
but we're not going to limit or restrict types of MSGs based on the service that triggered you. Because we don't want like an in-school youth that we know is in high school to be limited to the secondary school MSG because they could be getting training milestones and other things. So does that make
Yeah.
sense?
That makes sense. Now this whole thing makes sense to me why we're doing it this way. Yes.
Yeah, and we went to DOL and made them tell us like, okay, once someone has a service, we're not like trying to map services to MSG types.
Okay.
They're all fair game once you're triggered in the measure.
Perfect. So I might not, I mean, this is a bad example. I might not actually have attained my secondary school diploma, but I did meet a training milestone. Right.
Mhm.
So I can get the MSG based on that.
Yeah, and transcripts and report cards and
Gotcha.
all kinds.
And you
Yep.
can get the credential up to a year afterwards. So as
Yep.
long as you go in and put that in there, then it'll backtrack and put in that MSG for you. So
Okay.
where it can,
Now this makes sense.
yeah,
Okay.
where it can capture it, it's set up to do so, but there's gonna have to be something that's gonna have to be driven by the career planner to put it in the system.
Yeah, now that makes sense to me. But they'll at least get the auto populate piece
Yeah.
is definitely going to be, look, you enrolled in a training service, so you're on the hook for an MSG now.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's where once that happens, we'll open up the MSG section. And we did this in YCP. Like if you're not on the hook for an MSG, you can't add MSGs. We're not like
Right.
making that as an outcome requirement. Once you are, it opens up, and that's where this information text comes in that says, hey, you're now on the hook. And it will be different for in-school youth because they're always on the hook.
Right. So, but I guess the question, so I think this is great that like you're testing this, but this isn't really like, this isn't how this is going to play out at the end of the day. Right? Because this is going to be embedded in the customer record or in the career plan or on the assessment. It's going to be in with the customer profile. It's not going to be the standalone module like it looks now.
Right.
It'll look exactly the same, just embedded on a different page.
I think they want us to review it and say, yes, this is what we want. So go ahead and start plugging it into the customer profile. And then we'll put the services with it and see if it
Well,
works.
that's, just so y'all know, I think that's ass backwards.
Well,
Because I
if
think
we,
it's gonna be
if
different. I think it's gonna be different once you start. To me, it would be different how I use it. I don't know.
the way it looks, it's the user interface, the way it looks and what you're reading,
Uh-huh.
does that make sense? And then we're going to put business logic in that triggers. The reason we're getting in front of you guys now is because if we wait, we're going to have so much in UAT that they're going to be like, well, none of these words make sense. We want to completely redo the whole UI. And now we're like, 5
Right.
months closer to go live. So what we
Right.
do have is the UI. We've put a lot of thought and effort into the way we word these, making sure it's easy to understand, like that you're triggering or that you're not meeting requirements. That's why we're getting the UI in front of people and make sure like the uploading the files and the data tained
Okay.
would
All right.
work.
Now that makes more sense to me now. I think you need to provide this level of context to people, because if you just look at this on the surface, it makes it seem like I'm going to have to go in and add all my MSGs without any sort of support or any like intuitiveness on the front end that's going to push towards this.
Okay.
And I haven't seen the instructions, so maybe it's there.
Yeah, and I think it was talked through a little more with the locals on what's coming next and how this will all fit in with the next round when we have it with outcomes and the additional business logic that really triggers. But we'll definitely make sure that they have fully understood that as they're, providing their feedback.
All right. Thank you.
So these radio buttons here are allowing you to select all the different types of allowable MSGs. We are going to kind of redo this specific one because it's a little wonky. We have some good feedback on that, but there's essentially 3 EFL MSGs. The attained secondary school diploma is one that's auto-calculated. We just need to add a button here that will take you to the page where you would add the credential. If you haven't already done that, it's just a quick track to get there. So you don't have to close out and like navigate all the way there. You can just quickly jump there. You add the credential there and it auto adds the MSG. Go ahead, Christy. I see your hand raised.
Sorry, I just wanted to, now I'm going to be like Lisa. Is there any way that you could change? I know educating functioning level is something specific, but those words are really not customer friendly at all. But I mean, I know it's regarding something specific, but that one just, I don't know, it makes me a little crazy.
You can be like Lisa all you want, Christy.
Okay.
The other thing,
planner, but so does the customer see this? What is the customer view on their outcomes? Because if it's just
that's a good question.
I don't think the customer sees this part.
Yeah,
but I'm not 100% sure.
They should know what an EFL is.
Yeah, they do, but I'm just saying I don't like it. That's all.
Yeah, I know.
Well, but Laura, if I'm a new career planner, do I know what that means?
Well, they better have gone through training that we're setting
But
up.
that still doesn't. I mean, remember, again, you can call it whatever you want at the back end. The customer access and the use of the system isn't just for the actual participant, it's for the career planner too.
So then how about we get the definition?
DCEO bullshit terms for the career planner. That's for us to know on the back end.
Okay, so have Paula get the definition of what EFL, and then you can put an info bubble right there and.
Right.
Or we can call it something else.
Yeah,
we can call it what it is. And you, on the back end, you map it to EFL.
Yeah, I think we call it whatever.
Yeah, it's just the problem is because the NRS and the Act is the educational functioning level, which is different than a grade level equivalent. And so
I get that, but and maybe there isn't anything else to call it. I'm just saying on the back end we can map it where it needs to go.
Yeah.
And just because it says it in the act doesn't mean that's the term we have to use. Teresa's gone now.
Right.
So, and we didn't agree with that anyway, nor were we gonna do it. But, right, so. And maybe there, like I said, maybe there isn't something to call it different. I don't know. I'm not even sure what it means.
I think what
Well,
we
But
can do,
Paula, I do think that this is gonna be a very important training piece. And these are the like all of these questions that you're asking, all of this needs to be embedded in, and I guess Livy, this is for you too. All of these need to be uploaded to the training system folder.
I was just thinking, I mean, because EFL, that there's a chart that shows EFL to and what the scores are equivalent to that. I mean, so that's what it is on a chart. Is there any way to maybe put the chart, embed the chart in here somehow?
Or maybe
So-
you could just put the link to the chart or
Yeah.
something.
Yeah, right.
Well, isn't there multiple EFLs though? So isn't that
There-
chart just for this one, or is it for all of them?
There's 6 different
Yeah.
EFL
so
names.
there's sub EFLs under this category that we can definitely label more
Mhm.
user-friendly, understandable terms to make you think like, oh, that's that one.
Right.
Yeah. It's like middle high school. Yeah, it's yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Just use those 6 NRS levels then.
Yeah, we can, I mean, yeah, we can do whatever you guys want to do. Just let me know how you want it changed. We don't even have to just make it one. We could say, you know, increased test score, entry into post-secondary education, pass subtest. Real,
Well, is that what does EFL even mean?
Educational functioning level.
So
Yeah,
the broad term is educational functioning level. Then
Right.
what DOL did, they said, okay, that's a gain, but there's 4 types of ways you can, and it's all about increasing an educational functioning level. So that's the
But I'm
broad.
asking what the
yeah.
definition of educational functioning
Oh,
level is.
here.
I know what EFL is. I'm asking what is the definition of educational functional level? How
Have
does
to
DOL
look.
define that?
Sure, it's in a Teagle. We'll have
I'm
to-
opening the Teagle.
I'm in the
Okay.
Teagle.
Christy, you sent me down a rabbit hole.
Right,
I
thank
am
you.
so sorry.
Don't say
I'm
sorry to me.
sorry. I
Sorry
was
to them.
just saying if there was something else we could call it. I
Okay.
just well, and also I just want to say in Career Connect, its own separate part of something, and it's really like that's where you have to put the test scores, and it's not intuitive. It's not like it doesn't make sense, and it's hard to explain. So that's part of where I would guess I was coming from. So
They don't
sorry,
even define.
guys.
It's not right, and it's not
No,
even
it's
defined
not.
here.
It's a Department of Education term.
Mhm.
So how does the Department of Ed define it?
I think if you click on that link down there, that was at the bottom in that footer.
Do Department of Ed, DOE, definition of EFL.
Hey, is this little thing that you're showing right now, these a federally defined code? Oh, you just had it.
Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about the other thing I had.
Well, I was talking about that other
Pick
thing. While you
one.
were looking, I was going to ask a question about it. It's not important.
This is
I would pick the
Florida.
next one. Pick the next one. What does EFL stand for?
Look
What's
at
the-
there. Well, English as a foreign
Oh,
language.
it stands for
There
English.
you
as a
go.
foreign language.
Education.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's not technically a grade level, but I wish you could call it something else, like
Yeah,
you went up
literacy,
some
but it's
other type
literacy
of level
Yeah.
Right.
that
Well, it's
doesn't
even
say,
hard.
well,
You
What
say
What does that little arrow down below give you?
What little arrow?
Oh, sorry, never mind. You have it right there. The CASIS.
So can you say literacy, skill, and competency levels? Oh,
Or maybe can we just say education level? I mean, I know it's not a grade. It just, you know what? It's the word functioning. I don't like it, but I mean, I'm sorry. But
yeah, so
maybe it's
they would
something
take-
else, the education level, because it's not a grade level,
If you,
but
if you look at the NRS levels, if they show them,
Where
there,
in
you
our
go down to that CASAS one. Go
Well,
down to
there's
CASAS,
NSO and,
go down, and then go down. I'm sure there might be something here, but if you get to the,
like
yeah, those are the low intermediate, high intermediate.
this is
low
why they're
advanced
getting rid of the
intermediate.
Department of Education right here.
Yep.
oh,
yeah.
those are the levels, right? Or no?
Yeah, those are the levels.
Okay.
They're different for math and reading too.
Okay.
There's an extra one for math. So I think there's, well, yeah, there's 5 levels. One for math.
Well, can we say skill level or that's too generic? I don't know. Or whatever. I don't
Education
know.
skill level. I mean, education skill level sounds
Better than functioning.
right.
Yeah, that sounds better.
Um,
Because that's really what it's looking at is your skill level, right?
So we could call it an educational skill level.
And then put EFL in parentheses.
Okay. Let me,
Paula, does that give you, how much heartburn does that give you?
No, not at all. One of them actually, one of the types of educational functioning or educational skill level is entry into post-secondary or like an advancement in their school. So that makes sense. I was thinking the word attainment, but I guess
Well,
That
skill
would be
attainment.
okay.
Yeah, that would be okay. Educational attainment level.
Mm-hmm.
another one that falls under that are GED test or high HSE tests. So those are skill increases. One of the sub types. I'm just trying to make sure that our broad term is suitable for all the little 4 subtypes that fall under it.
Gotcha.
I
Yep,
do
yes.
need to circle back with you, Paula, on the 4 subtypes, because when we developed this, one of them you guys were not doing, but I'd heard that you guys are now doing. So we only have 3 of the subtypes, because
Why
you
weren't
weren't
we doing the
doing
fourth
one.
subtype?
It
Just
wasn't,
got added to the new Teagle 10, 16, change 3.
well, one of them, no, actually, way back when we didn't think was defined in Illinois, it was the Carnegie.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah.
So anyway,
Carnegie says,
I heard you guys are now doing that one.
should have been doing
Is that right, Paula? Do we need that one? Because you said 4, but we only have 3. Because you said you guys had a waiver for this one or something. Or you weren't doing it. It's not something that's being done right now.
right, we're not collecting it. And the last, I think Laura said something like, we do have this defined. I don't know if it was Department of Ed or B.
Yeah, Department of Ed, State of Illinois, they all follow the Carnegie units. That's the standard measure. So it's basically saying, it's adult high school programs that lead to a secondary school diploma through awarding credits. I mean, don't let Carnegie units confuse you there. It's if they get enough credits to pass and they get their recognized equivalent, then that's a positive outcome and that should count. So
Okay.
So that's one we need to add, and during our UAT, that was brought up, that is one, so I have that flagged as something we obviously need to update as part of UAT.
So what are you counting? The awarding of credits or
you're accounting the awarding of the equivalent because they awarded the equivalent based on credits that they've earned.
Okay, well, I'm just stupid with this ed stuff. What does that look like? Is that a diploma or the
It's the
HSE?
recognized diploma. It's a diploma or a recognized equivalent. So they got enough
I,
credits to get to get the diploma or get the recognized equivalent, then yeah, it counts. That's all that's saying.
and we'll dig into this in one of our
Okay.
discovery sessions to define it. Um, but I did want to flag that in case anybody's like, well, you're saying 4, but there's only 3 here. That is something that has been flagged, is we need to move from 1, 2, 3 to including that 4th one.
So this
Um,
is a lot of education stuff that we're expecting that we expect and have been expecting career planners to know.
Yes, that's because MSG is a Title II. That's it's a Title II measure as well. So they use the education terms.
I
and
mean,
we've added some checks in here to help
yeah,
them
okay.
understand by asking these questions. So, each of these has a
Title
different
II would probably like this too.
question.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, this is helpful because it helps them know, like, yes, I can check this one because I met all these things. I like that a lot.
And if they say no, then instead of them having to upload everything to find out, shoot, I don't meet it, we let them know that it's not met and they can refer to policy to better understand the intricacies of it.
Well, what would be more helpful than policy that nobody really understands is like having a link to a little tutorial or like a plain language training. Like if we had little module snippets, I mean, you can still read the
Yeah.
policy there. I like that. But what would be even better as we're developing the training is
Yeah.
if we have a little place that they could go to learn plain English. Wait,
Even better, like 5.0, bring back Clippy, and he plays right there for you.
I know we've talked
Somebody
about
keeps bringing Clippy back.
no, we've talked about clipping.
But yeah, definitely a link, but to the training once we have that would be really helpful to like that MSG section and they can just jump right there
Yep.
for that tutorial. Yeah. And that's something updating this to do that would be straightforward enough once we have those trainings.
Oh, okay, cool. Well, we need to think about, and Shannon's not on here, is she?
No.
We need and well, Olivia and Paula, as you guys are working with AIR, it'd be helpful if we can think about like, okay, so yeah, we're going to refer them to the policy, but what piece of the training are we developing that they could click on and go right there?
Mhm.
So Olivia, are you uploading all of this stuff to the, or is Paula going to do it to the training resource stuff?
We've been uploading our UAT documents, or not been, that's what we're gonna do. And then I can, for these, I think that's a great idea, like break down the questions, because you have to engage with it to see the questions. So I
Yes.
can send all of those summarized as part of what I put in there for MSG. My plan is to wait until after UAT to give them any documents because like we found in release 1, we had some changes. So if we need to change any of these questions or language after UAT, like
Mhm.
the educational functional level, I'll make
Mhm.
those changes and then provide them the documentation.
Mhm. Now, is there some way, like, based on how you answer these questions? So, like, for example, I think you've already done it in the answer. I know the answer to this, but like, if they answer the questions differently, then it doesn't count. Then it tells you it doesn't count, right? I didn't say that right at all, but
I know what you meant.
Like if I
Yeah.
am
yes,
answering in a way that like
yes,
this
Yeah.
isn't, yeah.
right. Okay. So you know what I was asking? What's the so what once I answer these questions? But this is the so what.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so it doesn't count.
And that was the big thing is we wanted to help people better understand than just having these and expect you to just
No, I love it. I think it's
know.
great.
And then they would upload the file. Each of these always is changing. So a lot of these elements seem similar, but the questions change. The definition around what we're asking you to upload changed because we have different requirements for what you're on. You pick a file, upload it,
Mhm.
date attained, Again, we'll have more validation here when I have services and for in-school youth, like when you're enrolled, I can know when you trigger. So if I say I uploaded this outside of my triggering service, then I'm going to say, hey, sorry, this data, like you didn't earn this within the appropriate time of it being counted as an MSG. So we'll have more logic like that over the top of it when we are at a place where I can do that. And then we have them verify. This was brought over, IWDS does this, and folks really liked just a verification that they have met the requirements for this type of MSG, and then save it. Actually, if I
Yep.
try to save it, it's gonna be like, hey, you don't have your questions answered.
Oh, good. Good, good,
Answer
good.
it. If I try to leave, this didn't, for some reason, didn't make it to UAT the first time I demoed this. But if I try to leave, it's like, hey, are you sure you want to do that? Oh no, I wanted to click save. So we're not losing any data. Then it'll save it and then add it to the table. I have been bouncing around and doing a lot of weird stuff. So nope, okay. It's here. You can't really see it because again, I have everybody working in this table, but I don't even remember which one I added or what date I put, but it is here. We went from 28 to 29. Typically, you would not have this many MSGs in a customer record. So that is it. We know we want more business logic around what I had talked about. Additionally, we are always looking to streamline things. So as we get into services, if we find ways where we're like, hey, earning this or doing this would auto be an MSG, we can auto add that. We can auto answer some of these questions. If it's like, well, that gets us half the way there, but we need this other thing. When they go to add that MSG, we can point to that and look at it. We're not saying like that it's done. We're just saying that's the UI and we're going to continue like enhancing it as we have more parts and pieces to continue to enhance it and like make it intuitive.
Okay. Yeah, I think that's important.
I stuck something in the chat about that, Lisa. An example of exactly what would automat. Yep.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Right. And let me make sure I didn't miss anything in the chat. Right. Any questions with any of that? Tamika, I'm not sure when you jumped on. I think the biggest thing for you is that you have all of their MSGs right here and can quickly download the supporting documentation that they used for that. So for monitoring, it's all tied right here. It'll also live in their like uploads page, but it's also tied directly to the MSG it belongs with.
Oh, okay, perfect.
Olivia, it's Paula. Real quick for my testing, when you add an MSG, and I put it in chat, and you jump around, because I know that the wording is different depending on the type in the radio button. That is how you know what MSG you're on by the, okay, I missed that. Okay, I wasn't paying attention to that. Thank you.
Yeah.
So you just referenced the top section of this.
Yeah, you should. It only changes when you pick. We can like
Right.
add it to the header. So even when you like scroll down, it like it's in the header what one you're on and changes as you
That
click
would
around.
be awesome.
Yeah. We can look at making that like a dynamic thing that changes with the radio button. Cause yeah, as you scroll down, you might not realize. And if you start like clicking in here and click out, it's not saving. So you're not saving. You're not going to error out as you try to save and have partial records. But yeah, we can.
Thank you.
That do you solid on wanting to go with educational attainment level?
Well, does that get messed up with skill attainment? I don't know.
Credential attainment.
Yeah, sorry, credential attainment.
To me, no, because there's a difference between a skill and a credential.
Right, I agree.
But let me think.
If we don't want to
MS
make the decision on today's call, I'm not asking you to do that either.
Okay,
So
good.
just
Let's, yeah,
FYI.
right, okay, perfect. We can toss it around a little bit.
because
I'm going to add it to the raid so we don't forget that this is a decision that we need to make though.
Perfect.
What about project artifacts? Was it education attainment level? That's where it goes. Oops. Anything else with that?
I don't know, I think that was a lot, Olivia.
That was a lot. Do you guys can get in there, get your hands on it, Paula, if you find anything else, and I know Ray jumped, but if he finds anything, and I'll connect with Mark to make sure he's getting in there too.
Well, oh, I know what
Definitely
I wanted
do.
to ask Paula.
She just
She's
said
not,
BRB.
oh, okay. Well, I know we have the LWIAs, the user UAT folks, but on the